couple of housekeeping matters before we pick up where we left off. I'm not going to read through all of the usual pieces before we get going. People know, I was going to say people know how to behave, but maybe I won't say that. But I do want to say thank you to our witnesses for joining us again and for being so incredibly patient the other night, because it was a long night. And I expect nothing different today, frankly, so I'll say thank you in advance. So I do have a speaking list, which I've carried over from last time. Ms. Latanzio, did you had your hand up for something? Sorry. I'll get to the speaking list and then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we begin our day today, the meeting has been scheduled from 8:30 to, I believe, 4:30 today to pursue our study on Bill C-9, which is the Combating Hate Act. Mr. Chair, I just want to say that I hope that today we will be able to finish our clause by clause. There aren't many articles left. Canadians have asked us across the country to be able to come up with legislation to be able to tackle the issue of hate in this country. And so I sincerely hope that we'll be able to get through it. As you've witnessed in the last meetings, Mr. Chair, there have been interventions nonstop. And quite frankly, there has been quite clearly a lot of filibustering around this bill for reasons beyond my comprehension. But I also want to mention that I hope that today the members opposite will. You said in terms of comportment and behavior. I sincerely hope, because I do not want to have what happened at the last meeting in terms of issuing out insults and making fun of members on this committee. So I sincerely hope that decorum will be maintained today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll get to you. Can I just say something off the top? Look, things got a little bit messy in the last part of the last meeting. I've spoken with a number of you individually. I don't want to have to cut people off. I don't want to have to take the floor away from people. We can stay here for days and days and days if people wish. All I'm asking is that people respect everybody else around the table. I don't want any name calling. I don't want any nonsense about people sitting beside people. Just cut all that stuff out, please. That's all I'm asking. It'll make my life a whole lot easier. It'll make yours a whole lot more enjoyable. And anybody who happens to be watching will have a whole lot more respect for all of us. So that's my ask for the day. I hope I don't have to discuss this again at any point. Mr. Brock, you had a point of order?
Yes. I recognize that I am not first to be recognized for substantive comments, but this is more of a housekeeping, scheduling issue. I believe the original notice that I read yesterday had us going to 5:30 today. Ms. Latanzio indicated 4:30, so I'd like clarification on that, Mr. Chair. I'd also like clarification as to whether or not we are sitting tomorrow. I would like clarification if we are sitting all of next week. I would like clarification if we are sitting the following week right to Christmas Eve. I would like clarification for the week between Christmas and New Year's Day. Furthermore, I would like clarification if you plan on sitting the week of January the 5th, the week of January the 12th, the week of January the 19th, until we return and resume our winter and spring session. So, Mr. Chair, if you could clarify that for us, that would be very helpful in terms of our organization and planning.
I admire your work ethic, Mr. Brock. Look, I mean, as you know, our ability to have meetings is largely dependent in some circumstances on resources being available. I have looked into those resources in the short term for tomorrow and next week. I don't have any response yet, but as with today... Will you
have a response before the end of this day?
Well, I'll have a response when I get... I'll keep asking, but I'll find out. So I will let you know when I know. Just so we're clear, yesterday I had resources available for 3 hours, but because of other events that were taking place, I thought it would be nice if we didn't have a meeting, and I've explained that to some of you. I hope that people respect that. But, Mr. Brock, I will find out. I've made the inquiry, and I'll let people know.
I just want to put on the record
I understand
that the Conservatives are prepared to sit every single day, if necessary, to defend my holy Bible and other holy books that are around this table. I will never stop that pursuit.
Mr. Brock, I'm glad you brought that Bible because it's my Bible too.
Good.
I was born and raised, and I'm a proud Catholic. And I think everybody around this table has strong religious beliefs, and we all share that sentiment. So, speakers list. Where did that go on us? I think Mr. Gill was first. No, I have the list from last time. Mr. Gill had.
You had given me the floor, and I was speaking.
No, you had point of order. I remember it well.
No,
Chair.
Chair.
It was Mr. Gill. All right, Mr. Jennings, we can start off this way. You will have ample opportunity to speak. Mr. Gill is the next speaker. I will add you to the list again. In fact,
Gill, but I
think
had
you're
the
next.
floor. Could you read out the speakers list you have?
Yeah, I had Mr. Gill, and then I had, where did that piece of paper go? Oh, it's right in front of me. Oh, and then Mr. Vierson, that's right.
Okay, well, put me on the list then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Chair?
Yeah, okay, so hold on. So let's make sure we got everybody here who had their hand up here. Okay.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain.
Who cares? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. You know what we do here? We show the stuff that happens in Parliament, in the House of Commons, all the scrums, all the legacy media. We do that in the pre-show. Then we jump straight into question period. We never miss it by like a minute. We nail it every time. Anyways, let's get into what else has been happening in the House of Commons, Parliament. It's nuts. Things in Canada are outrageous. Let's take a look. My gosh, you've got to watch the Frontline Politics. You can catch some of that right here. Let's get into it.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
Hey guys, brief update on my dad, because I know a lot of you have reached out and asked and have been waiting for one, as have we, obviously. I don't have a lot to say because everything's been slow. He's still very unwell, but he's not in the hospital. I'm seeing him every day for hours, which is really nice. We're working with great specialists and giving him more time to recover. I'm hopeful he will recover with time. When I posted the last video, I didn't know if he would recover at all. It was really scary, and I'm hopeful now, but it's still early on and he's still quite unwell, and we're still really not sure what's going on, whether it's an immune system issue, neurological, both. So I wanted to give an update that was like, things are really bad, but they're not as bad as they were a month ago or 2 months ago. So that's the update. I wish things would just go back to normal, but they're not there yet. Thank you so much for your prayers. We need them. I'll let you guys know as soon as I can if anything changes. Hopefully he's on the road to recovery. As for me, I haven't really been online, or at least posting, because the situation's stressful and sad, and I don't really want to get on a camera and pretend everything's okay. So I've basically been offline really since last February with the pregnancy, then Audrey, my 7-month-old now, getting incredibly sick, then Dad getting sick. Audrey, on the other hand, is doing really well. Praise God for that. We still aren't sure what happened. Like, she almost died from a heart issue, even though her heart is normal. She was diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary hypertension, and that seems to have been a one-off freak incident that hasn't repeated. So, like I said, praise God for that. Jury's still out if there's a long-term problem that they just can't find. I'll probably be paranoid about it until she's 20. But so far, at least that's under control. The plan for content is to start the podcast up in January. I've recorded 2 episodes that I would really like to release.
Happy to answer questions from my colleagues, and thank you again for having me to this committee. Merci.
Okay, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Minister. We'll begin questions.
Ministry Committee, you will have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to be clear, Minister, the members of the Industry Committee do not have an unredacted copy of the contract. A redacted version of the contract was given to members at the OGO committee after weeks of fighting to get a copy of it. But I am glad to hear that you are now familiar with the clauses in the contract, because we heard at OGO, in fact, that you hadn't read the entire contract when it was signed. What I do want to talk about is specifically right away is Section 6.3 of CIF Agreement 813-816-6251, which I hope you're familiar with. And to be also clear, I want to have your answers, not the answers of the people that you brought with you, because ultimately ministerial responsibility rests with you. In Section 6.3.1, create and maintain high-skilled jobs in Ontario, it says the recipient shall maintain an average of 4,475 FTEs in Canada for the work phase. The recipient shall maintain an annual average of 4,475 FTEs in Canada for the benefits phase. Are you aware of how many employees Stellantis employed when you signed this contract and you got this jobs guarantee?
Well, first of all, Mr. Chair, it's great that we have the same version. I'm working from the redacted version. And actually, I'm a lawyer, so it's going to be quite interesting to look at these things together. And you may want to seek legal counsel when you're referring to certain clause, because you'll have to understand the interaction between the clause that you mentioned, 631, and in fact 634D, which is obviously, you have to read these two clauses together. So we were aware of the number of employees that were there, but you have to read both agreements because...
Yeah, I'm aware of that clause,
no,
but just a second, Minister. I'm aware of clause 631D, but there's an amendment
I'm pausing the, Mr. Seebeck, don't worry, pausing the clock. I know everyone's protective of their time. Colleagues, maybe I'll try to set the tone early. We've got the Minister here. We've got colleagues that have questions. Let's let each other get through questions and answers. I will play nice with the time, and hopefully we can have a good quality conversation, which will allow us to head into the holiday season on good terms with one another. Mr. Seebeck, I've stopped the clock. There are 4 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. The floor is yours. Minister, if we can let him finish, and then Mr. Seebeck, allow him an opportunity to respond. The floor is yours, starting the clock again.
Yeah, Minister, I'm aware of clause 6.31D, which talks about they will maintain production at the Brampton facility. But are you aware there was an amendment to the CIF agreement that says that clearly contemplates the closing of that facility? It's in amendment number 2, which my colleague has a copy of. So I don't need to be told that the Brampton facility couldn't close. My question to you was, how many full-time employees did Stellantis have when you signed this contract? Because you're only guaranteeing 4,475 FTEs.
Sir, do you know for how long is the duration of the contract?
Minister, I don't know if you know how...
I'm just trying to help you.
I don't know if you know how this works.
Because if you want to understand the clause, I'm a lawyer, so I can help you interpret the contract.
I was a lawyer as well. When I'm the minister, you can ask me questions. That's fine. No, I'm asking you, did you know how many full-time employees Stellantis had? You can either say, yes, I did, and tell me, or you can say, no, I don't. You don't ask me a question. That's not how it works,
The number was known, but I'm trying to help you. You should be grateful. I'm here to help you. So I'm trying to help you understand the contract. I appreciate you didn't sign it, you didn't negotiate it, you didn't even participate in the negotiation. I did.
I kept
so
it
it's
hidden for 2 years.
Because I can help you and help Canadians understand.
Well, why don't you just help me right now and help Canadians by saying how many actual full-time employees Stellantis had when you signed the contract?
Well, what you need to look, the number you have there is an average over a period of 12 years. So what you have there is a floor. And I would say to you, you should refer to, if you seek legal advice, you would see that when you have these contracts with respect to the floor of employment for the auto industry, they usually go for a decade. So what you have is that you have an average over a period of time. This is a floor. That's what I'm trying to help you understand. This is like a floor. And when you read that clause, bear with me just for 1 second. I appreciate you have a question. You need to read the other CIF agreement, because they go together. There's a connection between the two CIF agreement, which is the Nexstar and the Stellantis.
I really don't need you condescendingly telling me to read things. What it says is the recipient shall maintain an average of 4,475 FTEs in Canada during the work phase. We're in the work phase because work is being done. And Stellantis had 8,000 employees when you signed this contract, 8,000. So that means they could fire 3,500 employees and still be in compliance with this agreement. And that there, sir, is the problem. Under this CIF agreement, the combined contributions were $3 billion. And they were still allowed, during the work phase, to fire up to 3,500 employees. And now they've fired 3,000 employees in Brampton. They did exactly what they were allowed to do. how can you say that this was a contract that was going to protect the workers? And my subsequent to that is, did you tell Unifor that this was part of the contract? Because I bet you didn't. They would not have been happy that you were allowed. They were allowed
you're
to fire
making a lot of assumption
3,500.
for someone who was not at the table. I don't recall having seen you negotiating the contract with us. Maybe I'm getting old, but I could not remember seeing you at the table when we negotiated. But when you see that clause, like I said, you have to read it in connection with 634D. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, and this is a floor. That was the commitment by Stellantis, and you need to read it in conjunction with the other SIF agreement, which if you want to go back, the Next Star agreement, because the Next Star agreement has also a floor. No, but let me answer.
And under amendment agreement number 1, it says, if the recipient closes the Brampton assembly plant prior to December 31st, 2035, and the closure cannot be shown to be about the result of a whole bunch of things, so your Section D doesn't matter, because in an amendment you clearly contemplated that the plant could close. So don't lecture me, sir, on reading the contract. I've read it.
So, Mr. Seebeck,
I think you're making a lot of assumptions for someone who has not seen the entirety, sir. You have the benefit of having someone who did it.
The only reason I haven't seen the entirety is because you've hidden it.
Sir, I'm
Gentlemen,
trying to
we're out
respond.
of-
If you want to
Minister?
pretend you were there and you know, just go on. What I'm trying to help you is to help you understand the contract and the interaction between the two clauses and the interaction with the other SIF agreement. Because if you look at the other SIF agreement, you have a protection for 2,500 jobs. If you put the two together, you have a protection for about 7,000 jobs, which is the floor that you have in these
so
agreements.
And that SIF agreement was
Gentlemen,
modified as well
Okay.
with an amendment that talked about
Gentlemen.
the jobs.
Mr. Seebeck and Minister, both of you, please. When I intervene as chair, your responsibility in that moment is to listen to what I have to say to allow me to get us to a productive and efficient, respectful, and effective space, both of you. So your time was up, Minister. I was trying to afford a couple of more seconds for you to answer that question. I think we've done that. I'm now going to go on to the next line of questioning.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups: the globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back to the SIF agreement number 813-816-251 and back to the jobs guarantee. You said that this is the floor, the 4,475 full-time equivalents. And I asked you if you knew how many full-time equivalents Stellantis had at the time you signed the contract. You didn't answer, so I told you it's 8,000. So what this agreement allows as the floor is that Stellantis could maintain 55% of its workforce. That's what 4,475 is of 8,000. I was a lawyer, so I'm not great at math, so I used a calculator to do that. So I guess my question to you is this, and I think it's a very simple and straightforward question. And Minister, I just hope you'll give a simple and straightforward answer to it. This agreement allowed Stellantis to reduce its workforce by 45% and still be in compliance with the agreement because they had 8,000 FTEs at the time. Did you discuss this floor, as you described it, with Unifor, the auto workers in Unifor, before you agreed to this? Yes or no?
So it's a complex question, so I'll try to simplify it for folks who are watching at home. That's why I'm saying this is a floor, an average over 12 years. That's how you have to understand that. And I know you may not agree with me, but if you seek legal counsel, they would say that you cannot read this clause alone. You have to refer to the other clause, because I know you're going at the Brampton. I was there to defend the Brampton folks. I can even tell you how the discussion went step by step. But that's why we insisted in the same paragraph that you referred to in Section D, 634D, and let me read for folks at home, the recipient shall maintain production at the Brampton assembly plant during the term or until December 31st, 2035. So I'm just saying, when you read the
but no, Minister, I'm trying
to help.
So colleagues, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press pause. I'm going to give him 10 seconds to finish, Mr. Seebeck. I'm not taking that away from your time, okay? Just to let him finish it. 10 seconds, Minister. Then I'm going to go to you, Mr. Seebeck. Clock is stopped. And then we'll provide you the opportunity to follow up. Minister, just in 10 seconds to finish your thought.
I'll do that in 10 seconds. So you have this clause, and you have to read the other SIF agreement with Next Star, because these two agreements go hand in hand. So you have to read this clause, the other section, plus the other SIF agreement together.
Okay. Start the clock again.
Minister, for goodness sakes, that wasn't my question, was it? I asked you if you talked about what you call the floor with Unifor before you signed this contract. Were they aware that the floor could result in 45% of their workforce being let go before you signed the contract? It's a simple question, please.
Yeah, but I don't agree with how you characterize it, because what I'm saying to you, it's an average over 12 years. That's why you have to look at this clause plus the other SIF agreement. If you want not to mislead Canadians, but Canadians at home are not
sit here and be accused of misleading Canadians, sir. You won't answer a simple question. That's misleading Canadians. Did you discuss this clause? Did you discuss this clause with Unifor before you signed the agreement? Yes or no?
Sir, what I'm saying to you, because you were not there. So that's the problem. You're asking a question, but you don't know what you're asking. What I'm telling you is that when we did this agreement, you have to read the next star agreement and you have to read the clause together. Seek legal opinion.
My question.
No, but I'm telling you, seek legal opinion.
That's not my question. Did you discuss it with Unifor, yes or no?
We had discussion with a number of stakeholders when we were negotiating. That negotiation...
That's fine. You know what? I'll just take this clause and ask Lana Payne if you talked to her about it before you signed it.
I talked to Lana Payne more often than you, sir, with respect.
We'll see. I'm going to split my time with Mr. Guglielmin.
So just for the record here, before you take the floor, Mr. Guglielmin, I have a minute 35 remaining on the allocated time. Okay, sir? Thank you. I'll start it now.
Minister, SIFA Agreement Amendment Number 1, subsection 3, paragraph 4. You're clearly already talking about possible closure of the Brampton plant for Stellantis. Did you know that jobs would be at risk or there were going to be layoffs or plant closures before you signed the contract?
Sir, when we negotiated that contract was to make sure we have protection for the employees because, like, again, I'm trying to help your colleagues understand this was not negotiated alone. This was negotiated with the Next Star Agreement.
Respectfully, Minister, the question was if you knew there was already the intention to have layoffs at the plant, because you clearly considered it in an amendment.
There was no intention. There was no intention for, that's why I'm trying to explain to you, because when you've been part of negotiating these contracts, you have an average over a decade.
Minister, did you let Unifor know that their jobs were going to be at risk when you signed this contract?
What I can tell you, at every step of the way, we fought for the workers to have the strongest protection for their jobs, for the investment, and making sure that Stellantis would invest. And that's what I'm saying. When you look at the interaction between these two contracts, that's what you need to do.
Minister, I'll give you another quick one. Yes or no answer, please. We're committing billions to Stellantis. Were there preclusions for Stellantis to pay executive bonuses in the contract?
So I'd like, which billions are you referring to? Because like I told you, if you go to the public accounts of Canada, what has been disbursed under the special contribution agreement is $40
Minister,
billion.
you said $9 billion. So regardless of how much has already been dispersed, was there a preclusion in the contract for them not to hand that money over in executive bonuses, those public funds? Yes,
sir, there's a number of
That's going to be the last
covenants.
question. I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer it, Mr.
Well, I'd say there's a number of covenants in the agreement that protect workers, that protect Canada, and I would refer you to the public accounts of Canada.
But I guess
okay, Mr.
nothing
Guglielmin,
to protect.
I apologize that we're now 20 over. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's great to be back here. Minister, quick question for you. Is this contract to Stellantis, the SIF agreement number 813-816-251, is it a usual contract?
You know, I'm a lawyer, so how do you want to define usual?
Well, your department said that this is a standard contract that they use regularly and maybe a few tweaks, modifications here and there, but we were told that this is a standard contract. So is this a standard contract?
I would say in my experience, you know, I've been practicing law or I've been qualified for a number of decades now. I would say what I've found in this contract is certainly having what you would expect in the contracts you see with the auto sector and beyond. I think we've added a number of provision and covenants, particularly the connection between this agreement and the Next Star agreement. I would say this is going beyond what you normally see.
Okay, how many other contracts like this have you handed out?
Well, listen, certainly the one with Volkswagen, certainly the one with Honda, and the ones that have been entered into during my time as industry minister. There was a number of one in Bécancour as well, so I've seen all of them.
Okay, now I recognize that, yeah, you're not the industry minister anymore, but under what part of this contract is the minister using to sue Stellantis? She said she's suing them, so what clause is she using to sue them with?
Well, you say there's a clause about remedy, which you need to first. Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's a section about remedy, which calls for mediation, arbitration. You need to provide notice of default. There needs to be a report. So it's pretty extensive in terms of the remedies that exist. And like I said, when you look at that, and I think that's the uniqueness in a way of this is the interaction between that and the Nexstar agreement. So the connection between the two is making it robust, I would say, in terms of protection.
So it's a standard contract where you give money to companies that lay people off. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I would say it's standard. First of all, there's a lot of, again, when you say give money, you have to say there's a lot of condition precedent that have to be met. If you're looking at this one in particular, now I just want to help you. Like I said, 40 billion.
Here's the key, though. Here's the key, really quickly. I don't need your help. We don't need your help. The workers at Stellantis, they needed your help, and you let them. They lost their job. Over 3,000 people lost their job. They needed your help. You failed them. This contract failed them. Okay, that's the point that you're missing and you're not picking up here. I'm going to give the rest of my time to Mr. Guglielmin here, but again, sorry, Mrs. Borelli, my apologies here.
Minister, we've been asking for the terms of the contract for a very long time, and they have been hidden for us. Vital information has been held from Canadians. Please tell me, what else are you hiding from the auto workers of Windsor, from uniform members, and from the people whose livelihood depends on the agreements that you make and depends on you being transparent?
Well, listen, that's the tenet of democracy. I'm here in front of you today to answer all the questions you may have. And to the comments of your colleagues before, I can tell you I've met a number of the United, the workers there, the union workers, and I can tell you they know that we fought nail and tooth to make sure that, because what you're not appreciating is to get to that, how much we had to force and to negotiate to have a clause with respect to Brampton. And I would say, since you were not there, I appreciate your point of view. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. We fought to keep Brampton. And look at the section on Brampton.
Thank you, Minister. Obviously, you didn't fight hard enough because 3,000 people lost their jobs in Brampton. And so what I'd like everyone to take a minute and sit with what the Minister has just said. After the rise in the cost of living, job loss, taxpayer money being spent recklessly, and a message of sacrifice instead of hope for Canadians, the Minister truly believes his government is doing enough. For all the Canadians watching at home today and hoping that this government fights for them, speaking with the Minister today, we can clearly see that the Minister and his government are simply not up for the job. Minister, are you proud of the work that you've done on this contract?
I don't believe that's the... Just 1 sec. Sorry, Ms. Borelli, on a point of order, I must address it. Madame O'Rourke, on a point of order. Well, I haven't heard it yet, guys. Well, you're not in the chair, so just give me 1 sec to be able to hear it, and I'll make a ruling, and then we'll come back to our line of questioning. Yes.
I believe that MP Borelli is misrepresenting what the minister just said to this committee, and it's not appropriate.
I think I'm going to just allow us to continue the line of questioning here, Madame O'Rourke. I'm not sure I heard anything that would suggest there's a necessity for me to intervene beyond that at the moment. Ms. Borelli, the clock says 31 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask the Minister one question. Sir, are you proud of yourself and the contract you made with Stellantis?
Madam, maybe the difference between you and I, since I've served Canadians, I always do that with humility, with empathy and authenticity. And I would say today in front of Canadians, they can see what this committee is all about. If you want the truth and the facts, I'm happy to be here. If you want to come here and question my character, I'll let Canadians judge that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always a pleasure to rise on behalf of the people from Kamloops, Thompson Nicola, and this is certainly no exception. C12, what originally was conceived of as C2, well, was Mr. Speaker, now Madam Speaker, welcome to the chair, really has had a very long journey. Let's be real here. We've been here since, well, the election was in April. We came here in May, and C2 was really the first substantial bill. I hadn't really dealt with a lot of omnibus bills, and I still remember when the Liberals came to power, they talked about the effect of omnibus bills on democracy. And they talked about using parliamentary tricks and omnibus bills and time allocation and things like that, and how they would never, ever do that. And we now see that the Liberals, I think, to be very candid, actually put way too much in one bill. They may have, so to speak, bit off more than they could chew. When you put lawful access, for instance, in parts 14 and 15 into a bill that touches on the sex offense registry, putting the Coast Guard under the authority of the Minister of National Defense, talks about cash transactions over $10,000, requires mandatory reporting from all sorts of financial agencies, and has dramatic immigration reforms, you are going to end up with a bill that is a hodgepodge of policies. And lo and behold, we dealt with a bill that was largely unworkable at the end of the day. And we know it was unworkable because this bill was originally tabled in the form of Bill C-2. Now it's C-12. Now, the Liberals can claim that this was a good thing, but the reality is that they had to, word for word, take various parts, Madam Speaker, of Bill C-2 and hive them off into another bill. In fact, I was at the Public Safety Committee not long ago, and we had a legal expert, somebody that was an expert in, I believe it was constitutional law, and she was asked about lawful access. Now, lawful access is something that lawyers debate about. It's not an easy topic to comprehend. I wouldn't disregard anybody if they said in this House if they said, "Look, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around lawful access." And what she said, Madam Speaker, is lawful access requires its own bill. And yet we had a bill that that essentially was forced on us. The Liberals to this day are attempting to shame us into passing a bill on lawful access that throws everything and the kitchen sink into a bill and expects us to produce a shining, gleaming bill when I believe it was the Privacy Commissioner, Madam Speaker, wasn't even asked for input. Now, for those at home who are watching, they don't know, lawful access talks about what the government can do without a warrant. Sounds good, right? In my prior career, warrants or judicial authorizations, they can come in many forms. A warrant is one of them. When a person has an expectation of privacy and a search isn't prescribed by law, as in there's no law saying you may search this, then you need a warrant. Search warrants are the most common ones, but other authorizations might include a production order, things like that. The Liberals, who roundly mocked the Harper government when the Harper government introduced lawful access. You are going far too far, they said, Madam Speaker, to the Harper government. And yet, what do? They bury lawful access, a critical legal element in this bill, Bill C-2, and then expect that everybody will turn a blind eye to what at least maybe, but are potentially likely breaches of Section 8 of the Charter, which says Canadians have a right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. So
my purpose is to see whether the committee wants or needs any further action on this letter. Mr. Majumdar.
Appreciate the opportunity, Chair, and appreciate the chance that we've had a few days to review the letter from Brookfield. Look, I think if I could just offer a perspective here, the reason we have a cloud of corruption is because the Prime Minister has created the cloud. The issue that we can see is clear from the letter is the Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister wants full public confidence, he can waive confidentiality on anything related to his own holdings. Nothing in the letter prevents transparency if the Prime Minister chooses so. The only person who can clear this up is the PM. he can authorize the release of information relevant to his ethics screen. Now, Canadians deserve to know that the decisions made by the Prime Minister have no bearing on his personal financial interests. They need to know that parliamentary oversight depends on transparency from public office holders. The PM's ethics screen only works, Chair, if Canadians can see that he proactively removes doubt, not hides behind this confidentiality. So this is about protecting public trust in our institutions, something the Prime Minister has so far refused to do. He can direct that Brookfield waive confidentiality, and we can understand exactly how he is not incentivized to benefit from these things.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Majumdar. Mr. Cooper, I saw your hand. Mr. Saini, and then Mr. Hardy. Cooper, Saini, and Hardy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and let me say that it was with disappointment, but I have to say at the same time I'm not all that surprised with the response from Brookfield. But it is nonetheless an unacceptable response. We have seen a complete lack of transparency on the part of the Prime Minister when it comes to the extent of his vast conflicts of interest as it pertains to Brookfield. And I guess while I'm disappointed and while I say that the response from Brookfield is unacceptable, at the end of the day, this could all be cleared up by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister withheld from the Ethics Commissioner, and he's withheld from Canadians the 1,900 other Brookfield companies that we learned about when Mr. Bieber appeared before this committee. Now, Mr. Bieber at committee confirmed that when Brookfield does well, the Prime Minister does well, having regard for the fact that he has stock options. He stands to make tens of millions of dollars from those stock options, as well as, of course, future bonus pay from the Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1. Well, if it is the case, as it is, that when Brookfield does well, Mark Carney does well, then it is relevant to know what these other Brookfield companies are. The fact that the Prime Minister has not disclosed them raises questions about the robustness of the so-called ethics screen insofar as that many potential conflicts of interest may not be captured by the ethics screen. And for Brookfield to say, well, there's nothing to see here because these other companies are de minimis relative to the Prime Minister, I'm not prepared to just take Brookfield at their word. When I asked the Ethics Commissioner, it's clear he has not seen these other 1,900 companies, so I don't understand how he could look at this and take at face value Brookfield's assertion that it's nothing to see because it's de minimis. So we need to find out what these other 1,900 companies are, and I would call on the Prime Minister to help us clear the air by requesting that Brookfield provide them if he doesn't already have them. But, of course, given the fact that he was chair of Brookfield up until a year ago, he would have most, if not all, of those companies. And at the very least, we need to know the companies that are in Canada, but there could very well be others. And, you know, what we have seen with respect to the total lack of transparency continues. It's just part of a pattern of not being forthcoming, because not only do we not know these companies, we now saw, based upon the testimony of the Ethics Commissioner, that the Prime Minister basically was hiding from the Ethics Commissioner all of the various times that he met with Brookfield. The Prime Minister was told by the Ethics Commissioner to stay away from Brookfield. And yet, 2 days after the federal election, a Brookfield-owned company on the screen was lobbying the Prime Minister. The Ethics Commissioner had no idea about that. Further to that, on May the 6th, the CEO of Brookfield Infrastructure met with the Prime Minister in Washington, D.C. The Ethics Commissioner had no idea about that. In October, Mr. Bieber, the Chief Operating Officer of Brookfield, met with the Prime Minister alone in the Prime Minister's office. The only reason the Ethics Commissioner knew about that was because of testimony at this committee, and this from a Prime Minister who claims that he is in constant contact with the Ethics Commissioner. Well, it seems that when it comes to meeting with Brookfield, all of the times the Prime Minister's been caught meeting with Brookfield, the Ethics Commissioner has been left in the dark. And along the lines of a lack of transparency, hiding things, we then see what has been discovered buried in the Budget Implementation Act, Bill C-15. We see buried in the Budget Implementation Act a law, amendments, that would give any minister within the government the discretion to exempt any entity, so that could be a corporation, body, or person, from any law, any act of Parliament other than the Criminal Code. The minister would have the ability, with respect to the exemption, to effectively hide the nature of the exemption, because the minister could exclude information that the minister asserts concerns safety, security, or confidential or personal information. Those are very wide parameters for a minister to hide from Canadians the scope of an exemption to a corporation or an individual to be exempted from the law, exempted from following the law. And so what sorts of situations could that be? Well, I mean, it could mean that Brookfield could be exempted from complying with the Lobbying Act, from having to report all of the times that they're lobbying this Prime Minister and those in this government. It could mean that a company could be exempted from procurement and contracting rules, opening the door for sole source contracting. It could mean the gutting of environmental laws, access to information, every law other than the Criminal Code. And you know, we've seen this movie before. We saw this movie before back in 2018 when the Liberals snuck in to the Budget Implementation Act a deferred prosecution agreement regime. If they snuck it in for a very specific purpose, and that was to interfere in the prosecution of SNC-Lavalin for all of SNC-Lavalin's extensive corruption. And we saw Justin Trudeau then, within months of that being snuck in to the Budget Implementation Act, him interfering in the prosecution, interfering in the independence of his Attorney General, and then attempting to obstruct justice and cover it up, abusing his cabinet confidence powers. And so we've seen this movie before, and just like in 2018, this was snuck in to the Budget Implementation Act. No minister talked about it. It's very clear the Liberals were hoping that no one would read the full bill, a 700-page bill, and that it would be missed, and but it would be law. And so there are a lot of questions about how this got in here, what the Prime Minister's involvement was, because something simply doesn't add up. Something smells, quite frankly. And so with that, I would like to put on notice the following motion, that the committee, A, undertake a study of the subject matter of Bill C-15, an act to implement certain provisions of a budget tabled in Parliament on November 4th, 2025, and of the process by which this act and Budget 2025 were developed with a view toward assessing ethical concerns that arise from certain provisions of the act, certain measures in the budget, and the process by which the act and the budget were developed, and for the purpose of this study, invite witnesses as may be proposed by members of the committee to provide testimony, and at the conclusion of the study, create a list of recommendations to be reported to the House and deposited with the clerk of the Standing Committee on Finance for its consideration. B, order the production of all records in the possession of the Prime Minister's office and the Privy Council office related to any meeting in which the Prime Minister and/or any staff from the Prime Minister's office were present that in any way relate to Budget 2025 and Bill C-15, an act to implement certain provisions of a budget tabled in Parliament on November 4th, 2025, including but not limited to stakeholder engagement in the development of Budget 2025 and Bill C-15 from the period beginning on March 14th, 2025 and ending on November 4th, 2025. These records should include but not be limited to calendar entries, briefing notes, memoranda, emails, and records of conversations, and these documents are to be provided with the clerk of the committee in both official languages and without redaction by no later than 3 weeks following the adoption of this motion. C, should the government fail to deliver the documents referenced in B, as ordered and by the deadline established by the committee, report the material facts to the House at the earliest opportunity. D, commence the study referenced in A immediately after the committee finishes hearing witness testimony for its study on challenges posed by artificial intelligence and its regulation, provided that no more than 3 additional meetings are scheduled for this witness testimony, and E, make use of the evidence received during the study referenced in A for the committee's review of the Conflict of Interest Act.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper. So that is a motion that is put on notice, and you'll distribute that with the clerk so that we can further distribute it to the members of the committee. Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Saini, I've got you next. We're on the Brookfield letter. Any comments on that? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, after sitting here for last 6 months, I have not heard one single word from my friends on the opposite side that deals with the actual issue of amending the ethic.
Come on.
laws. All we hear is bogus theories based on, prime ministers. We have heard witnesses after witnesses telling us that the Canadian ethics law are the gold standard of the world. It is the best in the world. And we also been told by people who actually take care of them, clerk of the Privy Council, the chief of the staff of the Prime Minister, that absolutely there are no issues. But my friend, continue to spread those theories so they can be seen good on the TV, or they can spread those messages on the public media to score cheap political point. This is not the place to play political games. This is a very serious committee. It deals with ethics of parliamentarian. We've been told by the ethics commissioner even last Monday. He sat here for 2 hours and answered every single question. Mr. Cooper, you raised the question with him last Monday, about 1,900 companies. We were told Those 1,900 companies are limited partnership. They are all over the world. It has nothing to do with the Prime Minister or any of the companies. We still continue to spread these bogus theories on a public domain so you can score some cheap political point. Mr. Chair, this is a sad day to our democracy when people, all they have to do is pick. And the other thing I want Mr. Cooper to know, he is the same Prime Minister who ran for the public office. Canadian knew who he was. Canadian also knew who the leader of the opposition was. Canadian of the opposition couldn't even hold his own bloody seat, whereas public Canadian elected this Prime Minister to be the Prime Minister of the country, and we still continue to keep playing these cheap political games. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. After a decade of Liberal mismanagement, describing Canada's immigration system as a tire fire in need of sorely in need of competent management and dramatic reform wouldn't be an exaggeration. And so Conservatives, to show we're a government in waiting, proposed multiple constructive amendments to the immigration components of Bill C-12 in an attempt to improve the legislation and fix Canada's broken immigration system. So here's what we proposed and why we did it. First, the why. Recently, Britain's governing Labour Party proposed drastic, sweeping immigration reforms in response to the ongoing illegal migration / bogus asylum claim crisis that they have in their country. Those who think the situation is better on our side of the pond are profoundly wrong. In fact, between January 2022 and October of this year, the United Kingdom had around 375,000 people enter the country and make asylum claims, representing about 0.5% of their population. But during the same time frame in Canada, we saw nearly 500,000 claims, or roughly 1.2% of our population today. The fact that the Liberals also paired the surge in illegal migration and bogus asylum claims with allowing record levels of temporary foreign worker and foreign study permits is extra problematic. This is an incredibly serious situation which has strained Canada's public health care system and many other taxpayer-funded social programs past their breaking point. It's made housing unaffordable, caused a youth jobs crisis, and led to a heavier reliance on social programs. It's also begun to tear apart Canada's social fabric, just as it has in the UK. The volume of people the Liberals have allowed to enter Canada has also made security screening difficult. A recent explosive news story claimed that there are, at a minimum, hundreds of people in Canada with links to a state-sponsored terrorist organization. All of this has led to a precipitous drop, very concerningly, in support for immigration among the Canadian public. And this must change. If that's the why, then this is the how. Conservatives proposed a series of substantive reforms to address these issues, presented as amendments to Bill C-12 during its clause-by-clause review at committee. I want to thank my colleagues Miguel Ryson, Andrew Evans, and Chloe Clifford for working literally endless hours until 1 a.m. on a Friday a couple of weeks ago, with me over 6 months to develop nearly 40 substantive amendments that, taken in combination, present one of the most substantive sets of immigration policy reforms seen in decades. Given the bill's scope, Bill C-12, our amendments had two objectives. The first was to truly fix Canada's broken asylum system. Once an efficient and compassionate means for Canada to welcome and protect the world's most vulnerable and truly persecuted persons, in the last decade, the system has morphed into a backdoor, lucrative means for illegal migrants who likely wouldn't have otherwise had a pathway to permanent residency in Canada to skip the line and stay here. The evidence of this is overwhelming. Canada's asylum backlog has exploded from fewer than 10,000 claims in 2015 to nearly 300,000 today under the Liberals due to their foolish #Welcome to Canada and open border policies. So we all remember the #Welcome to Canada tweet in 2017. We all remember the Roxham Road border crossing. We all remember the government lifting the visa requirement on Mexico with no plan to stop illegal border or bogus asylum claims. And here we are today with a broken asylum system and a loss of faith in Canada's immigration system. Unfortunately, the immigration measures in Liberal Bill C-12 failed to substantively address these problems. Committee witnesses testified that the system changes Bill C-12 proposed are half measures, certain to face immediate court challenges that will further clog an already overburdened justice system instead of curbing their abuse. In effect, the Liberals are offloading their illegal migration mess onto strained courts and past the next election cycle. Committee testimony exposed further flaws untouched by Bill C-12. It failed to disincentivize people from coming to Canada to make bogus claims. For example, rejected asylum claimants have the right to appeal to a judge. While those cases work their way slowly through our clogged courts, they continue to receive full health care, housing, and social benefits. The pedantic and loophole-ridden process for appealing a bogus claim and removing bogus claimants from Canada also begets system abuse and needs reform, which C-12 as written did not provide. The asylum and deportation system also urgently requires greater accountability and transparency. It needs to be far easier for MPs to get the data they need in these areas in order to hold the government to account. To fix these issues, Conservatives attempted to amend Bill C-12 to undertake the following system changes: removing the ability of migrants with failed asylum claims to claim any federal social benefits beyond emergency health care, disallowing asylum claims to be made by nationals of or by those arriving in Canada having transited through a G7 or EU country, modernizing security requirements, requiring educational institutions who accept foreign students to share the cost of any bogus asylum claims made by foreign students they welcome to Canada, requiring that claims made by migrants who return to their home country while their claim is pending be abandoned, rejecting claims made after a claimant is found to have lied to an officer, placing the onus on a claimant to prove that they have made their claim in a timely manner, not the government, requiring asylum claimants arriving in Canada to immediately provide on the record their full grounds for seeking protection, preventing the later use of unscrupulous lawyers to game the system, creating a new, transparent and clear reporting requirement for the government to disclose the amount of federal benefits received by asylum claimants, updating the content of the annual report to Parliament, and introducing merit-based appointments at the Immigration and Refugee Board to better consider the provinces and to include more board members with law enforcement experience. The second objective of our amendments was to strengthen Canada's border security vis-a-vis non-citizen criminals. Bill C-12 purports to strengthen Canada's border security, but it leaves gaping holes for non-citizens convicted of an indictable offence in Canada, such as sexual assault, to avoid deportation penalties. For a non-citizen, our laws and practices state that staying in Canada is a privilege, not a right. Non-citizens who are convicted of an indictable offence like sexual assault in Canada should face deportation, and to be effective, those deportations should be carried out in an expeditious manner, which currently they are not. Recent reports show that the Liberals have lost track of nearly 600 non-citizen convicted criminals scheduled for deportations, and that there are thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of deportations that should have been carried out long ago, but haven't been. To fix these issues, Conservatives attempted to constructively amend C-12 and make the following changes to strengthen our borders. Clarify the definition of serious criminality under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to be conviction by an indictable offence or a hybrid offence where the Crown proceeded with an indictable charge. Preventing non-citizens ordered removed from blocking deportation by barring repeat pre-removal risk assessments unless substantive new evidence of changed circumstances was presented. Modernizing the time period and processes related to the enforcement of removal orders. It's deeply disappointing that the Liberals opposed most of our amendments, which I suspect they will have to work into legislation in the near future anyways. They missed an opportunity to immediately fix the system. That said, I want to thank colleagues in the Bloc Québécois, particularly the members from Lac-Saint-Jean and Beauharnois, Salaberry, Solange, Huntington, for working in good faith with us to pass close to half of our amendments. Then, however, when the bill was reported back to the House, the Liberals initiated procedures to try to gut many of the proposals that passed. However, in spite of their best efforts, I'm pleased to report that several still remain in the bill. And it is my understanding that after negotiations, the government intends to support these amendments that remain in the bill today in order to receive our collective support for the bill. This is possible because Bill C-12 included some supportable, but in need of amendment, components of Bill C-2 that exclude the non-supportable parts. These Conservative amendments included one which would see a pending asylum claim deemed abandoned if a claimant returned to the country they were fleeing from. This is a no-brainer. I would just like to say that Conservatives will support the clarifying amendment from the government on this matter. Other Conservative amendments that remain in the bill, including new substantive or quarterly reporting requirements and new processes for terminating bogus asylum claims. Finally, Conservatives also successfully amended Bill C-12 to better constrict and make transparent the extraordinary powers in Part 7 that would allow officials to mass change, extend, or cancel immigration documents. This amendment should give recourse to committee witnesses who raised concerns about the lack of clarity on how these powers should be used and how the government should be held to account after. Additionally, thanks to a Conservative amendment.
Minister, welcome to the Senate. Minister, families across Canada are experiencing the worst affordability crisis in a generation. Despite the rosy picture painted by your government's photo ops and the government leaders' constant claims here in the Senate, an average family of 4 is projected to face a $1,000 increase in grocery costs next year. Food bank usage has reached a record high of 2.2 million visits per month, double what it was just 6 years ago. Affordable housing remains a distant dream for most Canadians, and household debt has climbed to a record 180%, the highest in the G7. Minister, after a decade of Liberal government, why does life continue to become more expensive for Canadian families?
Madame la Ministre.
Well, thank you very much, Senators. And first, let me just say what a pleasure it is to be with all of you. And Madam Speaker, thank you so much for the invitation to come to question period. I would like to start by saying that this government has been very focused on supporting people who are struggling, whether it is ensuring that benefits like the Canada Child Benefit, Old Age Security, GIS are indexed to inflation, or through innovative programs like the Canada Dental Care Plan that's providing dental care treatment for some of the lowest income Canadians across this country, or historically, whether it's through early learning and child care, which in Ontario, on average, families are seeing a savings of $10,400 a year. This government is focused on doing things for and with communities and families and provinces and territories that we know actually is improving things for families. I'm especially proud of the school food program, which supports provinces and territories to ensure that kids get a healthy meal at school. And I was recently in a school called St. Edwards in Nipigon, Ontario, in my riding, a very small community, where it was obvious that teachers, volunteers were so proud of the work they were doing to support their students, and the students themselves were so happy to gather around a meal and start their day with a full belly. So there are things we can control, Madam Speaker, and there are things we cannot. We are focused as a government on supporting.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. Senator Houssakos.
Thank you, Madam Minister. Senator Houssakos.
The litany of programs that you have in place that are there to get things better are going to, change the fact that Canadians are facing food insecurity, job insecurity, risking costs, and disbelief. At this point, there's a complete disbelief that the government is actually solving the problem. We're looking at the numbers of people going into food banks, people that can't buy a house. It's getting worse every year over the last 10 years. It's not getting better. When will your government acknowledge the strain Canadians are facing and change the methodology so we can get a different result?
Madame la Ministre.
Thank you very much. And although Conservative colleagues in the House of Commons continually report food bank statistics, they also fail to report one of the main drivers of the increasing crisis of food affordability, and that's climate change. In fact, report after report talks about climate change deeply impacting the cost of groceries, whether it's beef or vegetables or fruit imports and food grown here in Canada. And although there are things we cannot control about the price of food, what we can control is supporting families who are struggling. And that's why we continue to focus on things that help families, including early learning and childcare, which Kendra in Saskatchewan said allowed their family to send both their young children to daycare.
For Leduc Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know when the last time the honourable member was actually at committee, but Mr. Speaker, he does talk about, somehow he's talking about taking pot shots. I don't know how he defines a pot shot. When I point out that he ran an election where his leader promised an already devastating budget deficit of $62 billion. We're talking record level budget deficits. And then a few months later, they put forward.
May peace and joy find you all wherever you may start. South Shore St. Margaret's, my gratitude rings clear. Happy holidays to everyone. A bright, resilient year.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
This Liberal Prime Minister promised Canadians a win with the President by July 21st. 5 months later, no win, no elbows, no deal. From factories to steel mills, Conservatives will always stand with the workers who feed, power and protect this country. And today, those Canadians are paying the price. Back in May, the Prime Minister said Canadians should judge him by the price of the grocery store. Well, food bank usage doubled, grocery bills doubled, and 86% of families are cutting back on meat just to get by. Food shouldn't be a luxury in Canada. Conservatives propose to scrap the 4 Liberal hidden taxes on food because no family should have to choose between paying for the power bill or a nutritious meal. What's worse is this Liberal Prime Minister promised 500,000 homes per year, and he's only delivering just 5,000. Housing starts have collapsed, and now Canadians are being told to lower their expectations and give up on the dream of home ownership altogether. Conservatives propose to scrap the GST on all new homes under $1.3 million and get shovels in the ground now. Conservatives will bring home hope, stronger take-home pay, safer streets, secure borders, and a self-reliant Canada where, once again, our Christmas cards can say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and actually mean it. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
The honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé.
Mr. Speaker, after a busy year, we're almost at the holidays. Quebecers are doing their Christmas shopping. Christmas tree salespeople are offering their trees that we will put tinsel on, and children are counting their sleeps. This is not always an easy time for people, and that's why there are volunteers out there Christmas caroling and sharing food with the food banks. Let's think of our neighbors and share wherever possible so that this period is a truly happy one. The snow is covering Quebec with its white blanket. It's cold, but our hearts are warmed. On behalf of the Bloc, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a happy 2026 that lives up to our aspirations.
Honourable member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, as we bring this here to a close, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all my constituents in Willowdale the most joyful of holidays and a wonderful and exceptional year ahead. The residents of Willowdale appreciate full well that Canada stands at the cusp of a defining moment. So allow me to reassure him that our new government has been moving at an unprecedented scale. We are undertaking some of the most ambitious nation-building efforts in generations, renewing essential infrastructure, driving clean energy and critical mineral projects forward at unprecedented pace, and accelerating home building throughout our beautiful country. These initiatives demonstrate the urgency with which we are acting to meet the needs of Canadians today and stand as a testament to our commitment to strengthen the foundations of our economy for tomorrow. Allow me to conclude by wishing all the wonderful individuals working in Parliament, and indeed all the members of this House, the happiest of holidays. May we all return determined to build Canada strong. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicolai.
For a decade, Liberals have dismantled criminal laws, gutted jail sentences, and allowed gangs and extortionists to rule our streets. Since 2015, violent crime is up nearly 55%. Sex assaults have surged over 75%. Gun crime has skyrocketed 130%, and extortions have exploded 330%, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives have put forward many solutions, among them reverse Liberal bail and bring in jail, not bail, listing the Bishonoy gang as a terrorist entity, take urgent action on extortion from Surrey to Brampton, fire the embattled public safety minister whose gun buyback scheme will only punish law-abiding hunters and farmers. Use all legislative tools to ensure that child sex predators are receiving the worst punishments possible and properly punish intimate partner violence once and for all. Together, Conservatives will repeal reckless Liberal policies, put victims first, and restore safety to our streets.
The honourable member for St. Boniface St. Vital.
Boniface St. Vital, the first Minister of Northern Affairs and the first Indigenous cabinet member from Manitoba, the Honourable Dan Vandal, is in the gallery today with his wife Brigitte.
Here. The youngest of 8 children, Dan dropped out of high school to become a top professional boxer in Canada. He then got a BA in social work. When he realized the young people he worked with needed more resources, he became a city councillor in order to support them.
Nationally, regionally, and locally has been definitive. The Nunavut Devolution, the Port of Churchill, the Musée de Saint-Boniface. He is deservedly proud of the work the Government of Canada did to make real progress and investments in reconciliation when he was an MP and minister. To many of his former staffers, he is still the boss. To his family, he is the devoted père. Pour moi...
To me, he's a friend. Thank you, Dan. Just a reminder, I know the person we're talking about, but we're not allowed to refer to the presence in the galleries of any particular individual.
For Calgary Nose Hill.
Canada's immigration system used to be the envy of the world, and like so much else, the Liberals broke it. Public support for immigration has collapsed as too many newcomers, too fast, made housing unaffordable, healthcare unavailable, and youth jobs impossible to find. As a government in waiting, this fall, Conservatives not only opposed failed mass migration policies, but also proposed concrete solutions to fix it, like ending the wage-depressing, opportunity-stealing temporary foreign worker program, ensuring that non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault are deported, strengthening the value of Canadian citizenship by ending one-click virtual citizenship ceremonies, placing limitations on automatic citizenship for descendants of temporary residents, and preventing illegal migrants with bogus asylum claims from accessing benefits that most Canadians can't get. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. While the Liberals support mass migration policies, Conservatives will always fight for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Mont-Saint-Bruno, l'Acadie. Mr. Speaker, it's a great honour today for me to announce the creation of the Canada Democratic Republic of the Congo Interparliamentary Friendship Group. This group will provide a dynamic platform for dialogue, meetings, and greater cooperation in key areas like education, the Francophonie, energy transition, and student mobility. With a population of nearly 100 million, the DRC is now the world's largest French-speaking nation and a key partner in the French-speaking world. I'd like to thank my fellow parliamentarians who've already expressed their commitment to this initiative, and I invite all those who wish to do so to join us. Together, let's build strong bridges between our nations for a more stable, inclusive, and prosperous future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thanks to these Liberals, this Christmas is looking bleak because so many Canadians' families' paychecks are too weak. With grinchy Liberal ways, Canadians face a bleary plight, high taxes and spending, stealing Christmas magic and light. And just like the Grinch swiped every morsel, decoration, and treat, Liberal inflation robs their joys, leaving families in defeat. While 2.2 million visit food banks month on month, they plead, hoping for a food hamper, a simple happy deed. These grinchy Liberals' hearts are oh so small. Disconnected from realities, Liberals let their families fall. But like little Cindy Lou, who made the Grinch's mind see, Christmas doesn't come from a store, it's so much more, you see. So our ask is simple, a change we hope they make. Listen to Conservatives for Canadian families' sake. Bring back affordability, let their hearts grow in size, and bring back Christmas joy right before our very eyes.
The Honourable Member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge my family joining me in Ottawa today. Thank you for your love and support. And a special shout out to my sister. Happy birthday. I want to extend my warmest holiday wishes to everyone across the Cardigan riding, Prince Edward Island, and indeed Canada. Especially to those volunteers and those working essential services throughout the holidays who are keeping our community safe, healthy, and supported. And to our farmers who work every day of the year to provide homegrown, nutritious food for Canadians and the entire world. And a very special thank you to our dairy farmers who ensure Santa has fresh milk to go with the cookies. This season reminds us of the strength we find in family, the support in community, and the progress we make when we come together for Canadians. When members of this House work with that same spirit, we can build Canada strong. To all members of this House, happy holidays and joyous Noel.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The
Let's
Honourable Leader
go.
of the Opposition.
Pierre, in the batter's box.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Alphonse.
Merry Christmas. It's the holiday season. It's a time of hope, and obviously the Conservative Party is the party of hope. And so we are sharing that hope with everyone today. But for too many people, life has become too expensive. There are single mothers and seniors who can't buy food, and the Prime Minister is threatening Canadians with a new increase in the gas tax, which will increase the cost of food. Will the Prime Minister, before Christmas, announce that he's going to cancel these hidden taxes on groceries so that Canadians can have hope to eat well? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party, listen, there's nobody who calls that the party of hope. But in this holiday season, I would like to wish even to the Grinchy Leader of the Opposition a very Merry Christmas, and the same to the entire Conservative caucus. I hope that they'll stop imagining taxes that don't exist, taxes that have never existed and never will exist for Canadians. We're going to offer support to all Canadians. Merry Christmas, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I had hoped that the Prime Minister was going to be here for once to defend. Even if it's Christmas, we can't allow ourselves to go against the rules. I'll have to take a question away from the Leader of the Opposition, and I'm sorry to do that, particularly at this time of the year. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I just was hoping that for once he would defend the cost of living, which is going up because of the taxes that they're imposing on groceries. But it's not just that. There's also crime. The Liberals are blocking their own bail law. The Conservatives have moved motions 17 times in the last 2 days to get that bail law to be able to move forward. And the Liberals have caused these problems by freeing criminals with Bill C-75 before Christmas. Will they allow us to move forward their own law to reprove the damage they've done? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, just because it's the holiday season and everyone is feeling generous, well, Mr. Speaker, just because of that, you can't twist the facts. The Conservatives spent September, October, November, and December blocking the most ambitious crime-fighting agenda in the history of Canada, Mr. Speaker. And now, at the last minute, on the very last day, all of a sudden, they want to change everything, rearrange everything. We have bills for bail. We have bills to fight hate. We have bills to fight violence and extortion, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives need to get out of the way.
Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, let me wish everyone a Merry Christmas, the time of hope. And of course, Conservatives are the party of hope. And we share that hope right across the House of Commons, as I do with the Prime Minister, inviting him to stand up. But unfortunately for many Canadians, it's the time of Liberal inflation. As they go down the grocery aisles, they see the costs of food rising before their eyes, as the Prime Minister increases hidden taxes on the cost of making and selling food. 7 cents a litre gas tax he plans for the new year? Will he rise today and give Canadians some hope by announcing he's reversing that latest Liberal tax hike?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, rather than focusing on imaginary taxes like the opposition, we stay focused on helping Canadian families, and it's why Canada Child Benefit checks will be delivered early this year, Mr. Speaker. Early this month so that families can have the money when they need it most as they get ready for a happy holiday and Merry Christmas, Mr. Speaker. We're focused on supporting Canadians and Canadian families, something that I would hope a party that talks about hope would want to do.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the member might be suggesting that her own government department is imagining things again. I'm reading right here from the Environment Department's, quote, impacts of the CFR on gasoline and diesel prices. And for 2026, 7 cents a litre, Mr. Speaker. Another tax increase on fuel. So while the Prime Minister promised to flip-flop on carbon taxes and copy Conservative ideas, once again, it's the costly counterfeit version on his side. That tax will increase the cost of producing and delivering food to grocery stores. For just in time for Christmas, will he get rid of this latest Liberal tax on energy and food?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
What we always seek more hope, and it will never come from the Conservatives, is actually for them to read a full report in its entirety and understand the actual implications. In fact, the fuel regulations do not have the impact as he described them, but let's go a little bit further. Let's talk about the opportunities. I'm hoping he's thinking about canola farmers too. The regulation reduces emissions, but it creates opportunities for canola farmers. They have actually specifically said it is not a tax, and once more, it spurs innovation, creates opportunities. That's what we're about. That's what hope is about.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's very telling that the Prime Minister is not prepared to stand up and defend his own tax. But just to prove that it's another counterfeit, the Liberals say that a tax on the diesel farmers use is going to help farmers, just like releasing criminals, they say, will reduce crime. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives have been fighting to end Liberal bail for a very long time. The Liberals pretended to agree with us introducing a watered-down bail bill, but now they're blocking their own bill. Conservatives have moved 17 times to push the bail bill forward, and 17 times Liberals have blocked it, not 1 second of study at their own Justice Committee. Will they get out of the way so that we can scrap Liberal bail and bring safety by Christmas?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that leader lives in a bit of a parallel universe if he thinks that we are the ones in the way of the most ambitious crime-fighting agenda that has been presented to this Parliament ever. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are blocking progress on bail reform. They are blocking progress on immigration reform. They are blocking progress against extortion, child pornography, against all manner of crimes, Mr. Speaker. Will that leader stand up right now, turn around, tell his caucus, get out of the way of the Liberals fighting crime?
I took one question away because the Honourable Member broke a rule. We're now going to l'Honorable Député de Saint-Jean.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, we're not ready to start. We'll restart. It was mentioned earlier when the rule was broken. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, usually at this time of year we'd take a look back over the parliamentary session, but this year there's going to be a report to shareholders, I think, because Canada clearly has become a business. With this Prime Minister, the Liberals are no longer even pretending the fight against climate change is over. The environment to them, it's an obstacle to trade. With C5, C15 and S4, compliance with the law is over. Why? Well, it slows down business. So much for the Quebec difference. The Prime Minister launched an appeal against Bill 21 as quickly as he dropped his French classes. Did the Liberals realize that Quebecers did not vote for Canada Inc.? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, Canadians voted to build a Canada that's not only strong, but also to make sure that we build it well, and that's what we're doing. We have committed to strengthen the industrial price on carbon. We have made a commitment to strengthen methane regulations. We have committed to continuing with clean electricity, particularly in Quebec, and that's going to continue. We will be doing the work that needs to be done. We are fighting climate change, and we are building a Canada strong. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't have a Prime Minister. They have a CEO. They're not listening to social priorities like healthcare, seniors, and their CEO isn't listening to the ministers. They have to resign to be heard, and they're not listening to voters with their conservative budget. They're not listening to Quebecers who voted for them out of fear of Donald Trump. And their attitude now to their relationship with Washington, to quote the CEO, who cares? The only difference is that a CEO in a private company with a deficit like this, they'd be fired. Will the Liberals remind their CEO that he's in a democratic parliament? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If my colleague wants to talk about a record, we could talk about 180,000 jobs created in the country over the last 3 months. We could talk about the employment rate that's been going down month over month. Major investments like just this week, $19 billion, Microsoft in Canada. We can also talk about inflation that's within in the Bank of Canada's targets. And what's the Bloc's record, Mr. Speaker? No asks for culture, no asks for the environment in the budget, and they even voted against the National School Food Program. They voted against investments in culture, Mr. Speaker. They voted against social programs for Quebec. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, do you know what's generational in the Liberal record? Well, it's their betrayal of climate, their abandonment of all their green policies for an oil deal with Alberta. According to the former Environment Minister, it's a fire sale. Their shift to oil is going to sabotage any chance of achieving our greenhouse gas reduction targets over the long term. They're sacrificing all the efforts that older Quebecers have made, everything they've done for the climate, and they're telling younger people, well, deal with the problems. When the Liberals talk about generational issues, is this the generational legacy they want to leave? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that we can talk about a betrayal. The strategy is changing, but the targets remain the same. We, as a country, are going to meet our goals. But we need to face the changing reality in the world today. We are modifying our strategies, but the vision remains the same, and that's building Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary East. Before telling Canadians to judge them by grocery prices, the Prime Minister should have removed hidden food taxes, like the industrial carbon tax, the Liberal fuel standard, and the food packaging tax. The verdict's in, and it's very expensive. An average family of four will pay an extra $1,000 in grocery costs next year. In fact, weekly groceries have doubled under the Liberals from $160 a week to $340 a week. Do executives at Brookfield need to start lining up at food banks before this Prime Minister gives a damn about lowering food prices?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Here we go with imaginary taxes again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if that leader actually cared about the economy, he wouldn't have spent the last 20 years in this House voting against it. On this side, we're not playing procedural games. We've been governing. We passed an historic budget to build our economy. They hid behind the curtains. The proof is in the pudding, Mr. Speaker. In the face of a trade war, our economy is growing. We've added 180,000 jobs in 3 months alone. I hope his heart grows 2 sizes big. He becomes more focused on affordability for Canadians. Let's get on with building the economy. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Speaker, the Liberals are failing Canadians on housing. They're breaking their promise of 500,000 new homes per year, and their fourth housing bureaucracy is a mess, with their independent budget watchdog confirming it will only build 5,000 homes per year. Buyers can't buy, sellers can't sell, and builders can't build. Yet the Liberals refuse to adopt our conservative plan to axe the GST on all new homes built under $1.3 million to boost building immediately. Why is that when the Liberals promise, things get more expensive every time and things stay same again and again?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've got some good news to share with the House. Just this Monday, the Prime Minister and Mayor Sutcliffe announced a new partnership with the City of Ottawa. Excellent. 3,000 mixed-income affordable homes that will be built across the city. And through this joint investment, the City of Ottawa will fast-track the construction of 2,000 units of mixed-income and affordable housing on federal lands. Build Canada Homes will be financing 1,000 affordable homes from the City of Ottawa's slate of projects. This is fantastic news, streamlining the approvals and getting homes built fast.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
The amount of space he takes up in your guys' head
This
is
fall,
really something.
the Liberals voted against the most comprehensive immigration reforms in recent history, despite their promise to get immigration under control. Conservative proposals presented would have boosted wages and opportunities for Canadian youth by ending the temporary foreign worker program, ensuring non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault are deported, and preventing illegal immigrants with bogus asylum claims from accessing benefits that Canadians don't get. Why is it that the more that the Liberals say they're going to change, the results are always higher costs, more crime, fewer homes, and more of the same?
The Honourable Minister of Citizenship, Refugees, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have an immigration plan that is sustainable and strategic. This plan will attract the best international talent to build a strong economy. It will bring in high-level researchers to Canada. It will help us invest in recognizing foreign credentials, and it will also help us build Francophone and rural communities. We have bills C2 and C12 to protect our borders and strengthen our immigration system. I invite the opposition to support those measures.
Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
We found out today the Prime Minister's signature major projects office is directing Bay Street corporations, capital investors and banks to lend or second staff to the MPO, asking the companies to top up their pay. Here's how greasy this is. Banks, energy, mining companies, and Brookfield could end up with employees on the inside of the MPO, giving them the inside track and advice on projects they're working on, while these companies pay their salaries and provide lucrative bonuses. Under this scheme, just to spell this out, the Prime Minister's corporate buddies will be paying to have insiders work at the MPO. How is this ethical?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we want to thank our friend for his excellent conspiracy theory work. Mr. Speaker, we think that only the Conservatives would be shocked. Only the Conservatives would be shocked that quality women and men with experience in the private sector would step forward to work with a government that's going to build Canada strong, get major projects done. We're proud of the people that want to come forward and serve Canadians, and we regret that the Conservatives find that somehow a problem.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Minister's Bay Street buddies that are sounding the alarm, Mr. Speaker. If you're on Bay Street and you want a mine built, no problem, because you can pay to send an employee to the Prime Minister's major projects office to help you. Want a reactor built? No problem, because you can pay to send an employee to the Prime Minister's major project office to help you. Are you a large capital investor, say like, I don't know, Brookfield, and you want to fund a green project that pads the Prime Minister's portfolio? No problem, because you can pay to send an employee to the Prime Minister's major project office to help you. This is wrong, unethical, and corrupt. How is this happening?
Well, Minister.
Hello, Harper attitude. Again, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, I remember being an opposition member of Parliament. I was very impressed with some of the quality people from Bay Street that former Prime Minister Harper recruited to serve as Chief of Staff in his office, for example. So it wasn't a scandal then when people with business experience could serve in the government. And we're proud, Mr. Speaker, we're proud that this government and this Prime Minister is able to recruit that talent to join the talented women and men in Canada's public service to get things done and to grow the Canadian economy.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
While this Prime Minister and his government are looking to stack their major project office with corporate insiders and then have corporations send money to the major project office, Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers. Now, the firms paying those so-called top-ups to government employees are the same ones who are going to benefit from fast-track decisions made by the major project office. Why is it that the only pipeline that they're getting built is one that funnels cash from Bay Street to this Prime Minister's major project office?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, several years ago, that member earned the nickname the Death Valley Well Driller. The Death Valley Well Driller is that lonely guy out in the desert who's gone looking for water and never finds it. And here he is, once again, winding up the big pitch, and it all ends in
But you
nothing,
get an A for
Mr. Speaker.
effort, Pierre.
Of course, there are talented men and women joining with the government. We're going to help build the country. We're going to build Canada strong, notwithstanding the naysayers and the Death Valley well drillers.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, we've seen the depths of the corruption from these Liberals, and we've seen it with these ministers, including those who sit in the front bench today, who've been found to have broken Canada's ethics laws. And this Prime Minister is the one who has the market cornered on shadow lobbying, and now it looks very much like he's inviting more of his Bay Street buddies to have the inside track and have Bay Street pay for access so that his government can fast-track their projects. Canadians are lined up at food banks, and Liberal insiders are lined up at the Prime Minister's front door. Why won't...
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, it's easy to dream up conspiracies about everything when you've never built anything. When you've never built anything. We should be proud that good, hard-working people from the business community want to come to this government and work to build this country strong.
The Honourable Member for Côte-Nord, Kawawa-Chikamack, Nitassinan. Mr. Speaker, for Quebecers, the approach of the holiday season is a time of generosity towards those less fortunate. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what happened.
Il n'y a pas d'interprétation?
There's no interpretation? No? Okay, we'll start again. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, for Quebecers, the approach of the holiday season is a time of generosity towards those less fortunate. But for the Liberals, well, it's not so clear, because they're cutting $25 million in Quebec for help for people experiencing homelessness. Last Thursday, the minister confirmed that he's ending the Encampment and Crisis Response Program as of March 31st. How? In the middle of winter, can the government announce cuts to the fight against homelessness when the crisis has never been so serious? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to note to my colleague across the way that the Government of Canada has put in place the Canada Dental Plan, which is having a major impact on the lives of Canadians. 6 million Canadians are already covered by this program, including the most vulnerable. Many people are able to see dentists and dental hygienists for the first time in their lives. I would invite my colleague from across the way and all colleagues to ask all members of their ridings to sign up for the dental plan. The Honourable Member for Shefford. Well, I think she got the wrong answer there, Mr. Speaker. $25 million a year is nothing compared to an $80 billion deficit. It makes no sense to cut funding for the fight against homelessness. This is tens of thousands of dollars less for each one of our community organizations at a time when they know that the crisis is affecting more and more vulnerable people. This includes women who now represent about 30% of people living in homelessness. That's double the numbers that we've seen in the past. Frankly, is this really the time to cut funding to Quebec and to our organizations? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague. This is an important question. Homelessness in the country and in Quebec is particularly concerning. That's why we have a homelessness strategy. It's been in place for a few years with major investments. I would ask my colleague to look at the budget for 2025, which she voted against. There's $1.1 billion for transitionary housing for people living in situations of homelessness and to also help prevent people fall into homelessness. I would invite her to review her position on budget 2025 and support us in our efforts to fight homelessness. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, here in this House, all members have to follow the values and ethics codes for members of Parliament. And in the Conflict of Interest Act, it says that it is prohibited for a public office holder to personally solicit funds if doing so places them in a conflict of interest. The Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit in Quebec is now conducting an investigation into the Liberal funny business scandal, the Fling Flang scandal, here in Ottawa. It's a criminal investigation. 2 weeks ago, the Liberal member for Laval-Les-Îles promised TVA that he would make a statement to explain his involvement in this affair. Does the member for Laval-Les-Îles have the courage to stand up and explain to Quebecers his potential involvement in the Fling Flang affair? Unfortunately, I was a bit distracted during the question. I didn't hear the question. We'll see. I will listen again to the question this time. Well, listen closely, Mr. Speaker. Listen very closely. Well, listen, it's one of your members. It's because of one of your members. It was one of your members who was speaking to me. So, listen, we'll be careful with the sarcasm, okay? All right. The honourable member can start again. Listen closely, Mr. Speaker. Here in this House, all members are subject to the Conflict of Interest Code for members of Parliament. And it's clearly stated in the Conflict of Interest Act that, and I quote, it's prohibited for a public office holder to personally solicit funds if doing so places them in a conflict of interest. The Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit in Quebec is now conducting an investigation into the Liberal kickback Fling Flang scandal in Ottawa. No, but we haven't spoken about a member of the government, a member of cabinet. It doesn't appear to me to be relevant to the administration of the federal government, but I will let the government choose to respond if it wishes. The next question, the honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, right now, the Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit is studying the Liberal Fling Flang scandal in Ottawa. Just a moment, please. Just a moment. Just a moment, please.
Come on. Like, what are they talking about, do you think? Like, what did I screw up on? What was I not listening to? I wonder what you're going to tell me that is going to make the Liberals look on the wrong side.
This question doesn't affect the administration of the federal government. I'm not aware of what UPAC would be investigating In this case, if it's the same, it seems like it's the same question as the previous question. Mr. Speaker, I'll ask another question, Mr. Speaker. Because the media is talking about this everywhere. The member for Laval-Les-Îles said to TVA that he would explain his involvement in this scandal, which is currently being studied by UPAC. But my question, Mr. Speaker, now is on the Prime Minister's decision to choose Mike Wiseman to become the next ambassador for Canada to the United States, knowing very well that Mike Wiseman has already said that he was the creator of the Century Initiative, which wants to see 100 million people in Canada in 2100. And he said that he didn't care what Quebec had to say about it. And Mr. Wiseman is against supply management. Can the Prime Minister change his mind and not appoint Mark Wiseman as ambassador? The Honourable Minister for Canada-US Relations. Mr. Speaker, for the fourth time, our colleague is lucky. His question was in order this time, yet he has some challenges with the facts. He's talking about people who are not in the government, public policy that is not government policy. He knows very well that our government supports supply management. Under no circumstances will we negotiate supply management with the Americans. So despite what he's trying to do, we understand that the facts are still a bit loose here.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Food banks are overflowing, but the Prime Minister seems to be living in another universe. While Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, this Liberal Prime Minister spent $736,000 taxpayer dollars on a private jet, Mr. Speaker, even though a perfectly good government plane was available for a third of the price. 86% of Canadians have to go without meat because they can no longer afford to buy it. When will he stop making us pay for his whims while the world goes hungry? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those who live in another universe are Conservative MPs, like my colleague who voted against measures that help her constituents, like the dental plan for 20,000 people. There's also the childcare benefit that reduced poverty in young people by 38%. I would like her to come to my riding so we can talk about the positive impact these policies have had on Quebecers, and she's constantly voted against. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Lévis. Well, I will speak to him about the consequences of his policies. A 75-year-old senior in my riding spends more than half of her income on rent and medicine. Recently, this person found themselves in front of a grocery shelf thinking, I can't afford this, and she had to leave in tears. She said to a food bank, I'm ashamed, I've worked all my life and I never thought I'd have to ask for food assistance. That is the reality on the ground, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality of their policy. The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Votes speak louder than what she has to say, because she voted against an increase of the guaranteed income supplement that helps the most vulnerable seniors. She voted against the childcare benefit, against the dental care plan, against a tax reduction for 22 million Canadians. She voted against affordable housing. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but in the next year, they should perhaps check themselves and see how they can help Canadians and Quebecers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Winnipeg West.
Mr. Speaker, the Early Learning Child Care Program is already providing families across Canada with thousands of dollars of savings each year. In my own province of Manitoba, the program saves families an average of $2,800 a year. Last month, the Minister of Jobs and Families announced an extension of child care agreements with Saskatchewan and Ontario, ensuring that families in those two provinces continue to have access to this incredible program. Could the Minister please update us on the status of the early learning and child care in Alberta?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, good news, Mr. Speaker, and just in time for Christmas, tomorrow we'll be signing the extension of the early learning and childcare agreement with Alberta. And now all provinces and territories have agreed to continue this important program. That means in Alberta, childcare costs have been reduced to $15 per day, and it saves families on average $7,600 per year, Mr. Speaker. So that's money that families have to put on mortgages, to buy groceries, to save for their children's education, or even pay for hockey. Merry Christmas, Alberta.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives have asked the Liberals 17 times at the Justice Committee to start working on the bail bill. We moved 17 motions to get to bail, and 17 times the Liberals blocked it. They voted against our Jail Not Bail Act, they voted against our three strikes motion, and now they're blocking their own bill. At what point will this government stop voting against every single measure to finally scrap Liberal bail?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I'd remind the honourable member that what he calls Liberal bail is supported by the Canadian Police Association, the Ontario Police Association, the police chief in my community, and the police chief in his community. In fact, when his police chief showed up at committee, he urged all members, including the Conservative Party, to actually accelerate the process. He is citing revisionist history. If you go back and look at the tapes, you'll see that he and his colleagues spent the entire fall filibustering, talking about kittens and puppies, not crime and safety. Mr. Speaker, we are here to defend Canada's communities and the people who call them home. I wish the Conservatives would get out of the way and do something to promote public safety in this country.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Perhaps this minister should actually show up at the Justice Committee and see what his colleagues are doing. We show up ready to fix the Liberals' broken bail system. But after more than 17 attempts to prioritize C-14, the answer from the Liberals is always no. It is clear this government is unwilling to take even modest steps towards keeping Canadians safe. And still today, they continue to block tougher bail measures at every turn. When will they stop obstructing so we can finally scrap Liberal bail once and for all, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, after several months of obstruction and delay, getting in the way of measures to improve public safety, my honourable colleague has finally realized that people are seeing that it is he and his colleagues who have been delaying and denying justice from advancing in this country. Right now, we have an opportunity not just to move forward on bail and sentencing reform, but he's actively delaying legislation that is meant to help communities who are seeing their synagogues defaced, who are seeing their mosques attacked, who are seeing communities face harassment and assault in our grocery stores and on our university campuses. We can combat hate and reform the bail system at the same time. I wish he, for once, would cooperate.
The honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Speaker, it's difficult day in, day out, and see the Liberals claim to have the solutions for the problems they've created. For the last 48 hours, Liberals have rejected 17 attempts by Conservative members to advance critical bail reforms because they won't get off their desire to attack the religious freedoms of Canadians. Canadians want real reforms to bail, not Liberal obstruction. When will the Liberals get serious about real crime instead of thought crime?
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the member from Elgin St. Thomas, London South, has been the main culprit that's been filibustering all the crime bills in the Justice Committee this season, Mr. Speaker. He's been talking about cats and dogs when hate crimes have gone up over 70% in this country. And the reason we brought this bill was to help protect those worshippers, Mr. Speaker. We're doing everything on this side of the House to protect Canadians, to protect public safety, and they've been opposing, they've been stalling, they've been blocking it, Mr. Speaker.
Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
I will not allow the Secretary of State to point fingers when the very communities she's claiming to be speaking for have been the ones to cry.
You're not going to allow it?
The honourable member may start from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will not allow that Secretary of State to point fingers for...
I think we're going to hear that line many more times if it continues to be too noisy on this side. The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South, from the top, please.
Secretary of State is pointing fingers because she doesn't want to look at the millions of fingers that have been pointing at this Liberal government for allowing these problems to fester. Even today, Liberal members of the Justice Committee said that the Minister of Justice would only come before committee if we agreed to wave through their divisive and toxic Bill C-9. Why are they putting conditions on transparency and accountability and obstructing their own legislation? Why won't the Minister of Justice appear before committee, and why won't he stand up now instead of pointing fingers?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, it's just a fact that the member from Elgin St. Thomas, London South, has been blocking all crime bills in the Justice Committee since the beginning of this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. He's been talking about his pets instead of talking about the safety of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. But this is a clear pattern that we're seeing from the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They've been weak on crime since they've gotten here. They've been blocking the bail reform bill, Mr. Speaker. They've been blocking protections for peaceful worshippers, and they won't allow the police the powers they need to stop extortionists and pedophiles, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Under these Liberals, food prices have doubled and Canadians are struggling to get by. There are now 2.2 million food bank visits in a single month, with 1 in 10 of those users being seniors. Paul, a 70-year-old from Woodstock, was forced out of retirement and is now working night shifts to stock the shelves just so he could survive, Mr. Speaker. The seniors that helped build this country are now the ones that are struggling to afford to live in it. So will the Liberals finally stop driving costs up so our seniors could afford to eat and retire with dignity?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, remember when the Grinch tried to steal Christmas? He drove all the way up to the top of Mount Crumpet because he had everything that he needed, and he was going to throw the gifts that the Who's deserved because he thought they didn't deserve to have nice things. It's kind of like the leader of the Conservative Party, Mr. Speaker. For 25 years, he's had dental care because he's had a job here in the House of Commons. So he votes against dental care for 9 million Canadians. He's got secure housing. He lives comfortably at Stornoway in government-owned housing, so he votes against affordable housing for millions and millions of Canadians. My Christmas wish is that the leader of the Conservative Party comes back in January with a heart that's grown 3 sizes and tries to help a Canadian for once in his 21-year career.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Hide your pillows.
Once promised that hard work meant a great life, but with these Liberals, that promise is gone. Ryan, a single father from Thamesford, worked extremely hard, but is struggling to put food on the tables. He's struggling to put gas in his car, and he's struggling to keep his house warm for Christmas. And just like millions of other Canadians, he is now relying on a food bank to feed his families. With grocery prices going up $1,000, will the Liberals finally stop their reckless inflationary spending, scrap their hidden food taxes, so our citizens like Ryan can afford to eat once again?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
No, Bob Humbug is just a name for the opposition leader's management style. And thank God the human emotion of joy is not deductible, because the Conservatives would find a way to claw it back right before Christmas. They won't feed children. They won't help us feed children in school. They won't help us build affordable housing. They won't help us give and deliver families a well-earned tax break before Christmas. What's next? The Christmas tree? Are they going to try and take that away too? Even the Grinch had the good sense to give people the presents back before Christmas. When will this Conservative Party stand up and actually support Canadians? They said they were Canada first. Why do they put them last every chance they get?
The Honourable Member for Long Range Malcolm.
While Canadians cannot afford the basics, this Liberal Prime Minister spent nearly $800,000 on a private jet. In Newfoundland and Labrador, we have the highest unemployment rate in the country. At more than 10%, families are stretched thin. Canada's food price report shows the grocery bill has more than doubled since 2015, rising from $159 a week to $338. And next year, families are expected to pay even more. When will these Liberals stop their inflationary spending, cut the industrial carbon tax and their new fuel tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, I am so pleased to be able to stand and address the misinformation, the imaginary taxes, and the general disengagement from what matters in our province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Budget 2025 is about investment. It's about building this country. It is investment in rural Newfoundland and Labrador like the rest of the country. Roads, bridges, schools, hospitals. It is support for families, 46,000 families in our province who need the Canada Child Benefit, indexed to inflation. This member voted against all of these.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountain.
That answer is not acceptable, and I'm going to tell you why. A woman in my riding shared a moment that she said she will never forget. She was in the grocery store. She saw a senior couple standing at the meat counter. The elderly wife looked at her husband and quietly said, "I know I need to buy something, but I don't know what to buy because everything is so expensive." The woman who witnessed this exchange told me she went to her car and cried. She never thought she would see seniors in Newfoundland and Labrador struggling like that. When will the Prime Minister finally take these struggles seriously and make life affordable for the people in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Speaker, I'm going to deal in facts. Supports for seniors are indexed to inflation. Housing supports help seniors find affordable places to live. That's right. Supports for families and communities in Newfoundland and Labrador. School food program, which another member from Newfoundland and Labrador called garbage, feeds children. $800 a year for a family of two in savings. On and on I can go, and on and on and on. The Conservative members vote against everything that supports families and seniors.
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, across Saskatchewan, families are being crushed by soaring grocery prices. I recently spoke with a family farm, people who feed this country and the world. Yet after paying their bills, they now rely on a local food bank to get by. This should never happen in a country like Canada. And this Liberal government should be ashamed that there are now 27 cases of scurvy in Saskatchewan because people cannot afford healthy food after 10 years of Liberal inflation and higher taxes. How does this government defend a record where farm families need food banks and Canadians are now being diagnosed with scurvy?
Good question.
Okay, let's see if we can listen to the entire answer without making any noise. The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Speaker, like any serious disease, this government will respond to it. We'll work, Mr. Speaker, with all the officials involved, including our provincial counterparts. But I want to say to our House Leader, he has a very kind heart. He said at some of your interventions as answering the last questions, be kind, he said. So I'm going to say I wish you all the gift of greater tolerance for all people. In the new year, I wish the Conservatives place the priorities of Canada above your own political agenda. In this new year...
The Honourable Secretary of State knows that he must address the House through the chair. The Honourable Member for Pierre Dollard.
Mr. Speaker, in the Great North and Arctic, families face some of the highest costs of living for housing and basic necessities. In just a few months, our new government has announced several affordability measures for Canadians as well as in the North. Can the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs share how our government is working, including on the issue of Bill C4's affordability measures, to deliver financial relief to northern communities across that need it most?
Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, for the first time in generations, we're making historic investments in housing and infrastructure across the North, building homes and roads and community facilities. We're investing in clean energy, better internet, and stronger transportation links, all in partnership with Indigenous communities. So Bill 4 delivers tax cuts, GST housing credits, and enhanced benefits so families can heat their homes and feed their children. This is generational change for the North, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Yesterday,
the finance minister condescendingly said he was a lawyer and he'd be happy to explain the Stellantis contract. Well, Mr. Speaker, you don't have to be a lawyer or even an accountant to know that 4,475 jobs is less than 8,000 jobs. These guys, these incompetent Liberals, signed a contract with Stellantis that was going to pay them billions of dollars, and it guaranteed 4,400 jobs when Stellantis at the time had 8,000 jobs. This allowed Stellantis to fire 3,000 workers and ship the jobs down to the United States. How do they explain this unbelievable level of incompetence?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We signed that deal on behalf of this government for every worker, every employee, every member of that community. And Stellantis broke that deal, so in our opinion, they are in default. We are going to get that money back, or the jobs are coming back, period.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Yeah, except when Stellantis was at committee, they said they're not in default of the contract. So they're probably relying on the section in the contract that said they would guarantee 4,475 jobs, when at the time the company had 8,000 jobs. 4,475 jobs is about 3,500 less than 8,000. I know that's hard for these Liberals to comprehend, and that's why they feel like when they fired 3,000 workers, they're not in default. And guess who benefits again from this? Donald Trump in America, where all those jobs went, along with a $13 billion investment from Stellantis. What?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Instead of repeating Stellantis talking points and talking points from south of the border, perhaps the party on the other side should be joining with us to agree that the company is in default, and they should be joining us in encouraging the company to come to the table and either return those jobs or give our money back, period.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, at Industry Committee again yesterday, the Finance Minister falsely claimed there were, quote, the strongest protections for auto jobs at Stellantis. Well, we all know the outcome of that. 3,000 job losses in Brampton and $13 billion of investment by Stellantis in the United States. The contract was so badly written that the job numbers were only, quote, aspirational, with no penalties. How can the Liberals claim they're supporting auto workers when there are zero job guarantees in the contract?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaking of jobs for the good people of Brampton, Ontario, this new government is making a record $2 billion federal investment for the new SMR energy project in Darlington, Ontario. This will create 18,000 new jobs. Our energy sector is world-renowned. We'll continue to open doors for new exports around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga East, Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives stand in the way of progress, our government is relentless in delivering for Canadians, including by bringing forward two pieces of trade diversification legislation this parliamentary session. Trade diversification benefits the entire country, which is why we're moving swiftly to advance the trade deal with Indonesia, a market of 275 million people. Can the minister share how the Canadian-Indonesian trade agreement will create real opportunities for Canadian businesses and workers?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague through you for his good work on the International Trade Committee and, of course, for the good people of Mississauga. Indonesia is the 8th largest economy in the world with a population of over 280 million potential consumers. The trade agreement that we tabled this morning will cut tariffs and open new opportunities in aerospace, agri-food, agriculture, critical minerals, and so much more. Together, we're opening doors for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses, and Canadian products to new global markets around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, on October 2nd, the Health Minister's Assistant Deputy Minister for Controlled Substances told the Health Committee that no federal funding was used to buy crack pipes. Yet this week, the very same official was caught lying to committee when she revealed that Health Canada was in fact buying crack pipes with tax dollars. Wow. If an average Canadian lies on a government forum, they face real consequences. So, can the Health Minister tell us what consequences her senior official will face for lying to Parliament about funding crack pipes? How about
L'honorable ministre de la Santé.
Monsieur le Président,
My colleague across the way knows full well that we don't fund any publicly served crack pipes. And he knows it full well because he keeps ragging on about it at committee.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
The Cowichan Nation Aboriginal title case is an important decision affirming First Nations rights. Let's be clear, this decision is not about taking land from private owners. The federal government must focus its efforts on reconciliation and honour of the Crown. Will the minister convene negotiations with all affected parties to ensure an orderly transition toward respecting the ancestral, spiritual, cultural rights of the Cowichan Nation?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we will continue to work collaboratively with all parties to uphold the principles of reconciliation, transparency, and legal responsibility. We remain available for dialogue with all parties involved. That involves British Columbia, the City of Richmond, Musqueam Indian Band, Tsawwassen First Nation, as well as the Cowichan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are promising massive profits to resource extraction companies by fast-tracking projects on Indigenous lands while investing nothing in community safety. Violence against Indigenous women and girls spikes around man camps, including sexual assault, trafficking, and child sexual exploitation, a reality that was confirmed in the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Yet this year's budget offers zero. Do our lives matter, Mr. Speaker, or is this government going to turn their back on us yet again?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
The crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is unacceptable, and our government is taking concrete action. Through the National Action Plan and the federal pathway, we are funding new shelters and safe spaces, supporting Indigenous-led safety programs, improving policing standards, and advancing culturally grounded services for families and survivors. We know...
Rita Lakes.
Speaker, while Standing Order 18 is of interest in respect to the government House Leader calling me the Death Valley well digger, what I would say through the Speaker is that I'll stop digging if they stop burying stuff.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for the record, it is Death Valley well driller.
I think this is debate. L'honorable député de Berthier-Masquinongé.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you. I have a point of order, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect, regarding the Conservative Party questions that were refused earlier.
Bloc Québécois,
First of all, Mr. Speaker.
Shut up. Anyways, Aaron, Canadian Loney, like, share, subscribe. That's the show. We do this great pre-show that I think more people are catching on to, but we're here like an hour and a half before question period starts. And we do have the most interesting pieces. Like, I don't think anybody else is doing this. Like, and I don't want to say that too loud because then other people are going to hop on it. But like, we do this and they're interesting pieces of things that happen in the House of Commons and in Parliament, the scrums, that they never show on regular legacy media, whatever. We show it here. That's it. I'm trying to show you what I learn about Canadian federal politics. That really is the bottom line. Not going to try to sell you some stupid sticker or push some membership on you. Like, whatever. I'm glad to just have this great crowd that crack me up every day in the chat room. The chat room really is amazing. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen. Like, a lot of this stuff is planned. The benefits of having a great chat room like that, that wasn't a plan. That just kind of happened. Anyhow, we're going to wrap it up. Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney, like, share, subscribe. Back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, so it's a couple of hours early. Pay attention for that. We'll send out a notice about the show. Anyhow, that's it. Thank you all for watching. It's been a good week. Thank you, Kirk Ronda. Everybody that's new to the channel, smash the subscribe, hit the like. All the regular viewers, we'll catch you tomorrow. We're out for now. We are out. I think.